Anyone who meets the Hendsbee family can clearly see how much they love each other. The night we met them, they had just sat down to listen as 7-year-old Laura practiced a poem for a speech contest. But no one would ever know that just 4 years ago, the Hendsbee residence was a totally different place. When Mike and Susan met and fell in love, they had many plans for their lives together. Marriage, a house, and children were just some of them. But just before they said I do, Susan got some startling news. She had multiple sclerosis.
I actually gave him the option. I said, you can back out if you want to, because, you know, it's going to affect him too.
It wasn't really much of an option.
No, he was hooked by then.
I mean, it's a situation where, I mean, we were just about ready to get married. I mean, to me, it wasn't really a consideration, right? I mean, you know, the words better or for worse were, you know, I mean, the reality is only God knows the timing, and I mean, you can get by a bus tomorrow. So to change what we were planning on doing because of that, wasn't really an option.
But having children became less of an option as Susan and Mike realized a lack of energy and other symptoms that come with the disease might prevent her from being able to take care of a young child.
Well, basically we decided not to have children until we knew more about Susan's condition and things like that.
Yeah, how I was going to be, like, we didn't know. You never know what's going to happen, right?
So 13 years of marriage passed by. Susan's mild case of MS had pretty much stayed the same, and the thought of children had not left their mind.
So in our church, we have a number of people who work with the CAS, work for the CAS, and we had talked to some of them and about foster situations and things like that. We went through the home study process, and so we passed.
Yep, with flying colors. And
yeah, in the first picture, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But the Hendsbees were warned the process would be long, and some families wait for years to be paired with a child. But 3 months later, they got a call.
He was away on business, and the CS called and said, oh, we have 2 girls here that we think would be good for you to adopt, and possibly a third. And I'm home by myself. Mike's away for
it was a few days.
And I'm going crazy. I'm like, oh, what do I do? Who do I call? So I called his mom. I called my mom, and they were just jumping for joy. And
4-year-old Laura, 6-year-old Lisa, and 7-year-old Victoria, sisters who had been in foster care for over a year, were in desperate need of a permanent home.
When we actually went through the home study process, we had kind of collectively decided on one child. And we weren't overly fussy whether it was a boy or a girl. But given the situation and, you know, us being new parents and with Susan having MS and things like that, one would be about right. That's what we thought. And interesting enough, they show up with the file, right? There's 1, 2, 3, right?
3 little girls needing a home. Susan and Mike couldn't say no.
Well, they're actually from the local area. And in the birth family, there's actually 4 kids in the family. And there's an oldest boy who's, I guess, 18 or will be 18 in July.
Will be 18 in July.
And then there's Victoria, and then Lisa and Laura. And I think birth mom loved her kids, and I think it was just a situation where she could not handle 4 children. And so they ended up in care and in different foster homes. So the youngest 2 were in one foster home, and then the older 2, Aaron and Victoria, were in a different foster home.
So in early November that same year, Susan and Mike bundled up and headed to the Brantford Santa Claus Parade to meet the girls for the first time.
They didn't know that we were prospective parents, except at the parade, Lisa was sitting on Mike's lap, and she said, are you going to be our new parents?
Are you going to be my new dad? Why don't we just, let's take it easy for now. We'll just do the Santa Claus parade. She'd already asked the question, right? It was, they knew what was going on.
Yeah.
By Boxing Day, 2 out of the 3 girls had moved in. The process had literally taken 7 months. Suddenly, Susan and Mike were instant parents. And soon after, Victoria joined her sisters and moved into the Hendsbee home as well.
Laura is a happy-go-lucky, always singing, always happy.
Then we have Lisa. And Lisa's she's gifted. She's extremely intelligent. And Victoria, she's doing a real good job of balancing, her piano, which she takes very seriously, and her school life and home life. And she never was loud or she can be giggly, but she's probably changed the least out of the three of them.
Having a chicken burger and cold beans.
And the transition? Mike and Susan say it has been more challenging for them than it has been for the girls.
I think it was a lot bigger transition for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they kind of moved in and...
They took over the place.
Yeah, it's like...
They let us live here.
Yeah.
As long as we fed them, we could stay.
They would call, but we're not used to being called mommy, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's me. They're calling me. Yes, what would you like?
Of course, I think
I've caught myself doing that a couple times. So.
All right.
But ultimately, they feel their family is now complete. And even though it has been tough and a learning process, it's been worth it.
We've had to learn to love these kids. And although I think we thought it would just automatically happen, and at some level it did.
But yeah, it takes time.
It does take time. And I mean, these are different people, right? They're little people, but they're still people.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the life lessons that we needed to learn was the compassion side of things, and just you have to love somebody else's children. You have to learn to love them like your own.
And over the past 4 years, Susan and Mike have seen the girls change immensely, which included each of them making a significant decision in their lives.
So they all accepted, the Lord into their heart, right? We did the big ceremony and the whole thing. They
were all baptized? Were they baptized?
Laura's the only one yet that hasn't been.
It's that faith that Susan and Mike have shared with their daughters that have helped them get through this process as well.
I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be down this road if it wasn't for our faith, if it
Yeah.
wasn't for our walk with Christ. This is our mission field, and we joke and we have fun, but we take it pretty seriously too. These young ladies are a gift from God, and we have a fairly awesome responsibility to try and nurture them and bring them up in the way that they should go.
Now ages 10, 9, and 7, Victoria, Lisa, and Laura know this is where they need to be and are happy to call Mike and Susan their parents once and for all. What is it like being in a foster home?
It's like having a whole new family, but at the same time that you know that they're not your family. So.
What's that like, knowing that they're not your family?
Well, it's almost like having a babysitter that you always have all the time.
So now that you have a stable home that you come to, what's that like? Because now you're a part of a family. What does that feel like?
It feels a lot better. Like there's a home to go to, and it's not. This isn't temporary and stuff like that.
There was divine intervention to make this happen, and the fact that we are where we are 4 years later. There's a lot of people praying to make this happen, and so far it's gone pretty well.
Yeah.
And now, after all those years of waiting, their family is finally complete. Susan's condition is still mild, and they have a house full of children to love. In Brantford, Ontario, Magdalene John, 100 Huntley Street.